Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, I'm so fortunate to get to speak with many tech behemoths on this show and often get to hear about some pretty breathtaking stats. For example, let's talk about Salesforce. The IDC recently projected that by 2022, the Salesforce ecosystem will create an incredible 3.3 million jobs. But the big question is, where is the future Salesforce talent going to come from? And what are the costs of actually filling and acquiring skilled Salesforce technical talent? When you also add in low unemployment, high turnover in tech jobs, and Salesforce's seemingly unstoppable growth, it seems to me that it could make it increasingly difficult for customers and software vendors to find and keep the tech talent that they need to effectively execute their Salesforce initiatives. But this is not my area of expertise, so I turned to the internet and came across Nick Ham, and he's the CEO of 10K Advisors. And the company recently released its first annual Salesforce Talent Ecosystem report, which took a look at the Salesforce ecosystem and uncovered some pretty intriguing insights of its own. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Louisville, Kentucky, so we can speak with Nick Ham, the CEO of 10K Advisors. And I'll also try not to sing my favourite Elvis song, Kentucky Rain. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Nick. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So thanks so much for having me. My name's Nick Ham. I'm the founder and CEO of 10K Advisors. We are a talent broker in the Salesforce ecosystem. I fell into Salesforce by accident, like a lot of people in this ecosystem back in 2006. I have an engineering background, but kind of out of school moved into sales and marketing and some IT roles. So kind of did a lot of different things. And in 2006, the mortgage industry in the United States was starting to go downhill. And I was a salaried employee at that time. And we were the first to go when things started to not go so well. So I found myself looking for a job and really, a new career at that point, wanting to kind of get out of the mortgage business, and happened to find a job posting that a gentleman had posted here in Louisville about a CRM project manager. And so I found that pretty interesting. I had done some CRM projects within the mortgage industry and went and met this gentleman. He was a former Salesforce employee, was starting a Salesforce consulting company with his wife, and told me all about what Salesforce was in kind of an afternoon over lunch. And I was working out of his house the next Monday. I was totally convinced by him about what the platform could do based on my experience without having ever really used it. But then really once I got my hands on it, realized the power of what Salesforce could do even back in 2006 before it was as advanced as it is today. I was really sold on the power of the platform and how easily it could help transform businesses. So, I worked in that consulting role with him for about 6 years. We grew a small consulting company, and Salesforce's growth was tremendous even back then. That company was sold to a larger consulting company called Aperio, where I spent a few years. And then about 4 years ago, I saw an opportunity to really take a lot of the experience that I had gained through those consulting companies and now help other consulting companies and other Salesforce customers kind of do more. And so that was really the genesis of 10K. And, it was kind of the combination of the massively growing Salesforce economy, which has just been tremendous, as well as this kind of gig economy, which you hear a lot of people talk about, or the future of work. And so really that's what we do at 10K Advisors, is we are trying to really bridge that gap between the companies who so desperately need Salesforce talent and can't find them, and then a lot of the freelance Salesforce talent that's out there that may have a hard time finding customers or finding steady business. And so we are really the genesis of those two things.
What a great backstory, though. It's funny, isn't it, how life works out sometimes? I mean, you're in quite a difficult situation there, and it's almost like the universe gives you a little nudge in the right direction. It's like everything happens for a reason almost, isn't it?
It does. And, as I mentioned, this is not an uncommon story in the Salesforce ecosystem. It's a young technology in the, I guess, grand scheme of technology. The company's been around since 99, so it's not quite 20 years old yet. But not many people went to school to learn Salesforce, right? You don't set out on your career saying, I'm going to grow up to be a Salesforce professional. So a lot of people have fallen into it by accident, right? Their sales team bought it and it kind of got thrown into their lap, or they were the secretary or executive assistant that the executive said, now you own this. Or someone like me who had maybe done other technologies and this had fallen onto their plate and looked promising. And so, that again, it's not an uncommon story. There are lots of stories like this, which I think is also one of the great things about Salesforce is it has really helped empower a lot of careers for people who may have reached a dead end in another part of their career, or help supercharge someone who already had a great career, but could really take that to the next level with this technology.
So 10K Advisors is essentially a modern consultancy that provides mid to large size companies with on-demand access to proven Salesforce talent. But can you expand on that a little bit more for listeners who are just tuning in and hearing about you guys for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned before, about 4 years ago, we saw an opportunity to really help, number one, customers find the talent that they were looking for. So just for a little bit of context, when I started doing Salesforce consulting in 2006, Salesforce was a $300 million a year company at that time. Within 3 years, they were doing $300 million a quarter. And now I think their projections for this year are about $12 billion for the year. So just to give a little bit of context of the growth of just Salesforce's business. They have been very good at customer acquisition. And on top of that, they have added a ton of technology acquisitions into their portfolio. So, they've continued to expand their own platform very significantly. And so that's created a lot of opportunity for people in the ecosystem, but it's also created a lot of challenges for customers who are trying to find this talent. This ecosystem has continued to just accelerate and accelerate. But unfortunately, the talent that is really experienced in the technology has not been able to quite keep up. And so Salesforce customers, Salesforce consultancies, all fighting for the same talent. And so there's no shortage of opportunity for that talent. And as a result, you've seen a lot of people start to go the route of an independent or start their own small consulting company. And so that's created a lot of opportunity for those folks, but again, created even more challenges for the customers and partners trying to find that talent. Now they can't hire that talent as a direct W-2 employee anymore. So they're kind of off the table from that perspective. And now, when you have hundreds or thousands of these kind of small independent Salesforce consulting partners and independent contractors, it becomes very, very difficult for those customers and partners to find those folks or sift through those hundreds of independent contractors and individuals. And so, we saw an opportunity to really, provide access to that talent to the customers and partners that need it, and as well provide some structure and some kind of normalcy to these independent contractors. It's not easy owning your own business, right? If you're going to be an independent contractor, a lot of people think, well, I'm really good at my job. All I need to do is go set up an LLC and I'm just going to start making a ton of money, right? But in reality, as kind of a single shingle kind of person, you spend a lot of time just with legal, going through contracts with your customers, doing all the management of the work, doing the actual work itself, doing the accounting, following up on invoices, paying taxes, all that kind of not fun stuff that's about 30% or more of your time as an independent. So we wanted to make that experience easier for folks who wanted to make the transition into being an independent contractor by providing them kind of some of the structure of what they would get out of a full-time employment operation, but still allow them to be independent and do their own thing and, work how they want to work and work when they want to work and on the types of things that they wanted to work on. So we look at ourselves as kind of a bridge between, folks who have worked as a full-time employee for most of their career, but are now transitioning into being a little bit more entrepreneurial. And we just want to make that easier.
Now, one of the big reasons I invited you on the show today was after reading your first annual Salesforce Talent Ecosystem report, which took a look at the entire Salesforce ecosystem. And the key theme in that report seemed to be that the Salesforce ecosystem may be innovating faster than the talent can actually keep pace with. So can you expand on some of the findings in that report? And were there any big surprises in your opinion?
Sure. So the reason we did this report in the first place is, anecdotally, folks that had been in the ecosystem for a while knew this was a problem, right? It's been hard to find people, and it's been hard to retain people once you do find them. There's a ton of opportunity out there, but no one has ever really quantified that opportunity and really understood how much opportunity is out there. And so that's really what we wanted to set out to do, is just really quantify this kind of anecdotal conversation that people in the ecosystem have been having for years and years and years, and kind of knew, but didn't really know, kind of the mechanics behind it. And so what we found, I think some of the most stark pieces that we found were really in the Salesforce technical roles in a lot of the established markets. So, two of the things that really stood out to me was where every Salesforce developer has at least 4 job opportunities, and every Salesforce technical architect has at least 10 job opportunities. Now, these are the 2 highest paying jobs in the ecosystem. And so it's not surprising that there's obviously a need for them based on that alone. But the fact that each one has, either 4 to 10 job opportunities just waiting for them was very surprising to us, and I think it's probably surprising to a lot of folks in those roles as well. I mean, they're probably getting pinged by recruiters every week or every 2 weeks, so they understand that there's lots of opportunity for them. But now being able to kind of quantify that opportunity and quantify the challenge for these customers too, who are investing in recruiters and other things to try to find this talent and capture this talent and retain this talent. It's very important for them to also understand that, these are sort of becoming unicorns within this ecosystem. And, you really have to do a lot to retain this talent once you find it.
So can you tell me a little bit more about what technical skills are in high demand at the moment, and also how techies are actually commanding higher pay as a result? Certainly.
So Salesforce developers and Salesforce technical architects are certainly kind of at the top of the stack. So Salesforce has a program called Trailhead. Salesforce recognizes this problem as well, and they understand that it's a potential risk to their business as well. If they don't provide some tools or provide some enablement to create the next generation of Salesforce experts, there's a risk to their business that their customers might leave, or their customers might not adopt some of the new features that they're putting out because no one can keep up, right? And so Salesforce has created this program called Trailhead, which is a free learning platform for anyone that wants to learn Salesforce, all the way from the very beginning to very advanced technical types of training. And all of this is 100% free at trailhead.salesforce.com. And so Trailhead over the last 4 years has started tracking some of the job growth in these areas. And one of the stats that they came out with is in the last 4 years, Salesforce technical architect jobs have grown 41%. However, according to our research, Salesforce technical architects in established markets are only 1.7% of the Salesforce related profiles on LinkedIn. So there's been a ton of growth and demand for these roles, not as much a ton of growth in the actual people who can do those roles. And especially when you look at something like Salesforce Technical Architect, it's not something that you can necessarily just go take a couple of classes and now you're a Salesforce architect, right? And this is a role like in many other technologies. It's a combination of both very advanced technical skills as well as business analysis skills, presentation skills, leadership skills. And so as the demand for that has grown, the supply has not grown quite as fast, which I think is really a part of what's helped drive those salaries north of $160,000 a year, and really again, from my own anecdotal experience, quite a bit more than that for folks that are really senior in that role. From the Salesforce development standpoint, easily $120,000 plus a year salaries in established markets. That is a more achievable type of technical skill. A lot of those skills transfer well from other development technologies, other object-oriented development technologies like Java, .NET, as well as with Salesforce Lightning, which is kind of their new development platform. A lot of JavaScript skills from other popular platforms. I know JavaScript's caught on quite a bit. Now that's transferring its way over to Salesforce as well. And so I think that's why you've seen a little bit less gap in the Salesforce developer role. It's a little bit easier to achieve that, but really the pinnacle is Salesforce architect, and that's where a lot of folks who have made their way into some of the admin and developer roles want to achieve to really, number one, kind of claim their mastery of the platform, and number two, kind of reach that pinnacle of the Salesforce career stack.
I'm curious, did the report uncover any gender gaps in the high technical roles? Does that problem still exist?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's something we wanted to look at. Again, based on some anecdotal experience, you do see a very much more diverse population in the Salesforce community than a lot of the other technical communities that I've been involved in. And so we did look at that. And, there were a couple interesting things that came out of that. One was, from our research, we found that 48% of Salesforce administrators are female. And that compares to, kind of a 75-25 male-female split in IT roles in general. So, that's actually good news. We like seeing that. And, I think that, again, attributes itself to the fact that a lot of folks fell into this not by going and getting a computer science degree. A lot of them potentially just had jobs doing other things within a company, and Salesforce got thrown onto their plate, and then they built a career around it. But when you get into the more technical roles like developer and technical architect, you start to see a very much more stark contrast. So Salesforce developers we're finding are 80% male, Salesforce technical architects 91% male. And with Salesforce's push around diversity, it's one of their core values. It's one of the things that they really invest a lot in and push a lot. We wanted to understand how that trickled down to the ecosystem. This was a way for us to, again, quantify the problem here and understand, how stark is this contrast. There are actually several initiatives within the community, and the Salesforce community is very vibrant. The Salesforce community is unlike really any technical community or technology community I've been around. People are very passionate about the platform. They're very passionate about helping other people. And there are two groups specifically that, are really working to help close these gaps. One called Pep Up Tech, which was they were actually recognized quite a bit at Dreamforce, Salesforce's annual conference this year, and highlighted quite a bit. And their job and their goal and their existence is to really help folks that are in underrepresented categories to build careers within the Salesforce ecosystem. And then there's another group, Ladies Be Architects, actually started by a couple ladies in the UK. Who are focused on helping women grow their careers into Salesforce technical architects, and really close this gap of this 91 to 9% gap of male-female representation within the Salesforce technical architect role. So, we wanted to, also provide this data to them to show, hey, what you're doing is there's a reason for you here. You knew it before anybody ever kind of quantified the problem. But what we're really interested in is kind of setting the baseline. Now we have this baseline number. Now, how does this change year over year? Are we making progress? Are things going in the right direction? How fast are things going in the right direction? And so we're really excited to watch that unfold over the next few years.
Now, I don't know if it's the tech columnist in me, but whenever I read a report, the first thing I want to do is look for the original source. So can you tell me a little bit more about the methodology behind the report and how you went about getting those results?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was the first time we'd done this report, and so we decided to use all public data to do this. So LinkedIn was a huge part of what we used to do this, and as well as some other public information from Department of Labor, from Salesforce themselves. And so we really took these data sources and triangulated a lot of these statistics based on what we found from these public data sources. We are looking to follow up. So this is one that we plan to repeat every year. And we defined a methodology that we want to repeat every year, that same methodology based on these public data sources, so that we can be consistent year over year to understand how these things are changing. But we are looking to follow up with additional research that will be our own sourced research to dig in a little bit deeper on a few of these specific areas. So that's something that folks will have to stay tuned for early next year.
Excellent. So was there anything in there that particularly surprised you?
I think some of the gender diversity stuff was not surprising, but the actual quantification of that was surprising, as well as the number of job opportunities for developers and architects. If you had asked me, hey, how many job opportunities does every Salesforce developer have? I would have probably said 2, right? And there's definitely a lot, but I would have never expected 4. Same with technical architects, maybe 5 or 6, but 10. That's a lot more than I expected. So in some ways, that's a good thing. It shows that there's a lot of opportunity there for the folks that are in those jobs. It's a lot of opportunity for folks who are helping to grow people that have those skills. It also shows how big of a challenge it is for customers to find and hire those people. And that is not necessarily a good thing for them. And so, again, that's part of the reason why we have the company that we have, is to help clients of ours close that gap. Figure out how to get those folks, especially if you're not going to be able to hire them full time. And a lot of the folks that are in these technical architect roles, especially, or the more senior technical roles, they have a lot of opportunity. They can kind of write their own ticket and do whatever they want to do. So it's hard for companies to convince them to just stick with them full time and not look outside that company. And so, we really embrace that concept, and we encourage our clients to embrace that, and apply the right talent when you need it. And so, we're finding a lot of success in that, and looking to see where that goes over the next few years.
So looking beyond the report and onto those next few years, or even just towards 2019, which is just around the corner, what's next for 10K Advisors? Is there anything else you can share with us today?
Sure. Yeah, hard to believe that 2019 is right around the corner. But so really what we are looking to do is, in general, help Salesforce customers run better programs, right? That's the really, we talk about talent and the inability to find a Salesforce developer or a Salesforce technical architect. That's kind of a symptom of a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is that Salesforce has grown organically in many of the customers that use it. So Salesforce has 100,000, 150,000 plus customers. I would say, I, again, don't have hard statistics on this, but a small percentage of them set out to build their whole business platform on Salesforce. Most of them bought it to do some small thing or solve some specific problem, and then it's expanded into, oh, well, if we're going to do our sales department, then we should definitely do our support department. Or if we're going to do opportunity management, we should definitely flow that through to our contract and invoicing process and the like. So it's grown organically within a lot of these companies, and many of them are not super sophisticated when it comes to running technology programs of any size. And they've made large investments in Salesforce. And so we see a big opportunity to help these companies understand the right team structures, the right operational processes, the right mix of skills, and the right mix of talent to bring to the table to really help them get the most out of their Salesforce investments. And so there's really not any other consulting company out there doing that right now. And that's what we see as our big opportunity over the next few years, is really operationalizing consulting, and really helping folks, again, apply the right skills and talent as they need it on demand.
So if anybody listening wants to check out the report, find you online, or maybe just reach out and contact a member of your team if they've got any questions after listening to our conversation today, what's the best way of doing that?
Sure. 10kview.com, 10kview.com is our website, as well as our Twitter handle. If anyone wants to reach out to me directly, nick@10kview.com, I'd be happy to discuss more about what we do or answer any questions, and would welcome more conversations.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. It's a great story, great insights. So a big thank you for coming on and taking the time to share that story with me today. Thanks, Nick.
Really appreciate it, Neil. Thank you.
And the rain in my shoes, searching for you. My name is Neil C. Hughes, and I have musical Tourette's. I was doing so well there too, because I have often been accused of suffering from some form of musical Tourette's. Does that even exist? Because during any conversation, if I hear any potential song lyric, it just seems to trigger something inside and I have to get it out. Is that weird? Do I listen to too much music? Am I alone in this? Please message me with your support and reassure me that it's actually something quite normal. But hey, game face back on. I love chatting with Nick today, and he really opened up my eyes around the gender disparity in higher paying technical roles and the cost to fill and acquire skilled Salesforce technical talent. And I also learned how a combination of low unemployment, high turnover in tech jobs, and Salesforce's seemingly unstoppable growth could make it increasingly difficult for customers and software vendors to find and keep the talent that they need to effectively execute on their Salesforce initiative. But if you're listening and have experience in this field or similar industries, I'd love to hear more from you. So please tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, email me techblogwriter@outlook.com, or simply leave a virtual voicemail on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. So, a big apology for my musical outburst earlier. I can't promise you it won't happen again, though. But I will try and rein myself in from any further outbursts. But more than anything, just a big thank you for listening to this show. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.